Welcome to Practically Political. It's great to have you with us. I'm Dave Spencer.
And I'm Carrie Sheffield. Let's get right to it. So for those who regularly watch or listen to Practically Political, you know that we are committed to respectful dialogue. And we have a lovely guest with us. Her name is Alexandra, also known as Lexi Hudson. And she's the author of a wonderful new book called The Soul of Civility. Lexi, welcome to Practically Political.
Thanks for having me, Carrie and Dave.
So I love this book. I think it's so needed. And it goes into the classics and it brings ancient wisdom and puts it in the modern context of what's happening with our country and the world. And I just would love for you to give an overview. I'm going to read a quote from it that really struck me. It said, "The civilization of a nation is not located in impressive architecture or institutions. It is instead located in the character of its people. Civilization is the cumulative effect of individuals' decisions to take the humanity of their fellow persons seriously." Talk a little bit about why you wrote that.
So my book is about civility. It's about the most important question of our day. How do we flourish across deep difference? And when you look at the human experience, you see that this language of civility and citizenship and civilization are all very intertwined. And this narrative of us versus them, in-group versus out-group, who's on my side, in my family, a part of my civilization society, and who's not, often who is the in-group is defined and cohered by contrast to an out-group. And people tell themselves a story of being morally superior, intellectually superior, sophisticated. The ancient Greeks, for example, they took civilization very seriously. They decided that anyone who didn't speak Greek was going to be called a barbarian. And that's where we get our word barbarian from. To Greek ears, the word all non-Greek speaking languages sounded like bar. And so they're like, anyone who's not a native Greek speaker is just a barbarian. And they couldn't just leave it at that, they didn't speak Greek and they were just different from the Greeks. They told themselves a story that being non-Greek and not speaking Greek meant that they were intellectually, culturally, morally inferior. And so there is this narrative, this like us versus them narrative, this definition of civilization that we see across history and culture. And I try to dispel that. I try to disentangle this language of civility and civilization from its abuses and misuses, because we can all obviously see the harms that come from defining the in-group and the out-group and wanting to tell ourselves a story of superiority and other people dismissing them as inferior just because they're different. And so the passage that you identify, that's from my chapter, connecting civility and civilization and disambiguating faux civilization from true civilization. It's really easy to think that civilization is just the cumulative progress of advancements, of beautiful architecture, technology, sophistication, and language. But that's actually faux civilization. True civilization is in the character of its people. Citizenry who care about the dignity and personhood of their fellow citizens, of their fellow human beings. So I love this line from Samuel Johnson that the test of true civilization is how a society cares for the poor and the vulnerable in a society. It's that sort of common humanity, milk of human goodness definition of civilization. How do we care for those who are in need? And it's not about architectural, cultural sophistication. It's about, again, how we care for our fellow human beings. And I draw particularly from the life and work of Albert Schweitzer in this chapter. Schweitzer was a philanthropist, Alsatian German philanthropist, who was absolutely scandalized by the misuse and abuse of this language of civility and civilization as a ruse to subjugate and pillage colonial Africa. He visited Africa. And as a philanthropist, and he opened a hospital there, and virtually overnight, thousands of people from across West Africa came to seek care in this hospital. There was just such dire and desperate need, and he was really convicted by the hypocrisy of the West, where they claim to care about human dignity and personhood and universal human rights, and yet they were content to abuse and misuse African peoples as it suited them. And so he in his work, A Theory of Civilization, he distinguished between faux and true civilization. Faux civilization was a civilization that, again, located its sophistication and technological advancements and beautiful architecture. And he said that's faux civilization. What he wanted instead was an ethical view of civilization that was grounded in what he called a fundamental reverence for life, all forms of life. And that's kind of I really love Schweitzer's work. I think he's due for a revival in our own moment today as we hear the language of civilization and barbarism being tossed around with what's happening in the Middle East right now. And so thanks for asking, Carrie.